Hello and welcome to episode 10 in the Weirder Hings Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Michael McCann.
And I'm Innes Smith. Is that it?
That's it.
Is that your intro?
Yeah, that was it.
So do you want to wrap it up now then?
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Bye.
What are we talking about this week?
What are we talking about this week? We are talking about many things. We are talking about Scottish myths and legends.
Oh, that sounds very exciting.
It is very exciting.
It's almost like the kind of thing you'd sound excited about, Michael.
Yes, I am.
That's good.
Yeah, I've got a lot on my plate over here. I'm still worried about the dead Sasquatch for last week.
Are you? You worried about that?
Yes. Before we batter into Scottish myths and legends, there's a few things that we need to go over. Right, so, because last week on the podcast, we did a hypothetical where what would happen in the event that everyone vanished and Innes was the last man on the planet.
It's me. It's down to me, folks.
Yeah. And we had about a 20-minute discussion on various things.
I was just thinking, it's down to me to continue the human race. How can I do that?
Exactly. I don't know if you've heard of this website. It's called Wikipedia. It's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah. It's got all sorts on it. It's fantastic.
And that's Wikipedia, is it?
Wikipedia. It's where you go to get all your wicker. If you need some wicker, you go to Wikipedia. And on this Wikipedia, they just happen to have a timeline of what happens should everybody disappear instantly.
This is great. This is what. Yeah.
So I thought we should revisit this to find out exactly, because last week we were just hypothesising what would happen.
Okay.
But we actually have the actual answers now. So I thought it would be interesting for us to go back and find out exactly what happens.
Okay, just have a wee review, okay?
Yeah. So I think in our hypothesis that you woke up in the morning, right? So that's where we'll start, right?
I was immediately on to health and safety.
Yeah. Where is everybody? Right, so
you were just thinking sports car.
Yeah, I went immediately to sports car, the best car I could find. Right,
I was just like health and safety.
Yeah, you wanted to decommission all the nuclear waste planets. The
nuclear waste planets. Turned a bit sci-fi all of a sudden, didn't it?
The nuclear power stations. There we go. God, I should have took that coffee. But now, say you're asleep, right? You've been asleep for, let's say, 6 hours. That's a nice number, right? But in the time that you've been asleep, a lot has happened. Right? So, between 1 second and 1 minute of everyone on the planet instantly disappearing and leaving you behind,
right?
Every car on the planet has spun out of control, crashed and burst into flames. Because people who were driving them have disappeared.
This is somebody that's really thought about
this. Right. So everybody's disappeared. The cars that were driving have all spun out of control and crashed. Some have burst into flames. The ones that haven't crashed or swerved off the road and they've come to a stop, but their engines continue to idle. So until the fuel in the engines burn out, that those cars continue just to idle, and then the petrol runs out and then they stop. Right? So the cities begin to cool down by a fraction of a degree because all the cars are off. So the earth instantly starts to cool down.
Yeah, that's right. Because even the CO2 exhaled by human beings, it makes an effect. Is this one of the?
Yeah. So, but not only that, all the small aircraft fall out of the sky, right? Because no one to fly them, and the larger ones remain in there until the fuel runs out, and then they just crash. Right. Okay. So you've woke up to it's raining planes and helicopters.
Okay.
And there's crash cars everywhere.
I don't live underneath a flight path.
So you're
selfishly, and yes, I'd probably survive that.
Yeah, you're good to go. You're making it through in the morning.
I don't live at the side of a road.
Yeah. So this is where things start getting interesting. Security measures at power plants fail.
Right, this is what we're in. This is the meat and veg.
This is 5 to 10 days. The equipment and the spent fuel buildings adjoining nuclear power plants that maintain the temperature level of the spent nuclear fuel rods will shut down. Spent nuclear fuel for nuclear power plants is generally stored in pools and on-site facilities because the fossil fuel-powered backup power generators will run out. At that time, the cooling pools that prevent the spent nuclear fuel from overheating will start to boil since this water is not being replenished.
Not being pumped, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Radioactive steam will vent into the atmosphere due to the water eventually evaporating. The spent fuel will eventually set fire to the building, and the steam pressure will cause the storage facilities to explode, causing a non-nuclear explosion emitting radiation not only in the immediate area of the plant but around the globe due to winds. So we're talking like a Chernobyl type event.
Not a big...
But loads of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's within 10 days.
Ugh. You think they would design something to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. Radioactive clouds across the skies and rain carries the radiation to the ground. Most plants and smaller animals within the affected zones die. Larger animals like deer flee to unaffected regions, not because they notice the radiation, but because of the lack of food. So they notice the food's dead, so they move.
Okay.
So you've got 5. So you woke up and you've got 5 to 10 days.
This is a sad podcast.
This is really depressing, yeah. 10 days to 1 month. Hungry dogs from the cities flee to the... Now, this is why I was saying you shouldn't let the dogs out.
I mean, there's only so much driving around in a sports car and masturbation that could compensate for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, how long have we been talking about this? Do we have any listeners left? This is grim.
Yeah. So the dogs have ate all
Why
the cattle.
Why are we talking about this?
Roaming...
10 days.
I just want to...
No, but 10 days. We've got 10 days, basically. Of you with your box of tissues in the passenger seat of your Ferrari driving around, and what you're saying
is Italian leather.
Okay, and what you're saying is there's nothing.
There's just
nothing.
A living nightmare.
There's
Remember I said this
to
scenario to my friend, and she said, "I'll just kill myself instantly."
Yeah,
and I laughed at her. I mean, you wouldn't even get us. No, she was right to do that. Just honestly, because you'll just kill yourself, and then, the dogs will get you.
What I would suggest, though, is I think due to the extremely depressing nature of this very podcast, I think I'm going to write to my MP and MSP and say there is no... If the most lethal technology that we have on Earth does not actually have a failsafe...
Yeah. I'm sure it does, but it needs a person to operate it.
But that's the point. That's not a fail... That's a failsafe... This is the thing, it's like... Failsafe is a misunderstood engineering term. Failsafe does not mean that it cannot fail. It means that when it does fail, it fails safely.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that there is no failsafe then. There is no failsafe for
here's
it
the
will
thing.
go wrong and end disastrously. What you need is some sort of system that will ensure that these fuel rods will always be cooled, whether there are people there or not people there.
But it's fine though, because within 3 months the radiation disappears from there.
Yeah, I get the whole half-life sort of thing, but the damage has been done. Mutations have occurred.
Yeah, because the dogs are now attacking the elephants.
I mean, you would just have to hope that you were far away enough, from these places.
You're getting cancer. There's nothing you can do.
Cancer anyway if you live long enough. But
but I mean, like in this scenario, like you're getting cancer. There's no, because when Chernobyl happened, Scotland was affected by the radiation clouds. I don't think many people got cancer because of it, but like that was one.
Well, I know there's quite a few people that talk about the increase in leukemia and blah 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 blah. That idea has, considering that they took all the livestock off the hills and slaughtered them that year. Yeah, all the sheep and all the lambs, they just got wicked away, and it was because for the week. I can't remember if I talked about this before, but I have a memory of it. But excuse me, I remember being in second year at school, and a physics teacher, Mr. Cook, took the Geiger counter out into the playground when it was raining, and the radiation readings were off the were crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, we say brilliant, but it's just like, this is.
And they're all standing there in the playground in radioactive rain, going, should we go inside?
Mr. Cook was cheerily telling us that this wasn't a good thing, but just saying, well, there you go. I mean, the government. This is the thing, though. I think there was because it's an invisible thing. People don't really worry about it that much, but radiation, it's a big deal. I mean, it's interesting that people now you can go on tourist trips to Chernobyl now.
Yeah, I'm desperate. I was trying to get to Kiev to do one.
But you only have an hour or max or something. You get to be there.
You can do it a weekend. It's fine. You get a mask with some gloves. You're not allowed to wear shorts. Basically,
that sounds like a rave. You get a mask and gloves. It's all right. Yeah. It's fine.
No, you can spend the weekend. There's a hotel in Pipiprik, I believe is the name of the place.
There you go.
I wanted to do it, but when I was going, there was a civil war at the time, so they wouldn't let me in.
It's nice to see that this horrific disaster has been at last monetised.
Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah. It's quite expensive. I think it's like £300 British to go and hang out in a radioactive wasteland.
Yay!
Yeah. So we were kind of close. But what I would do, right? Sports car in a wee Western Island in Scotland, just get to it as quickly as possible. Just forget letting cats and dogs out. In fact, don't get a sports car because that can't carry anything. Get a van, fill it with generators and as much petrol as you can find, and food, and seeds and stuff like that. Just raid your local Asda or Walmart, and get to somewhere and try. And just live out your days until the cancer gets you.
That's so romantic.
Yeah.
I.e., just like real life.
Just like real life.
Like real life.
Just going to retire to an island in the west of Scotland before the cancer gets me.
Oh, that's so cheery.
Yeah, anyway.
So how many...
Thank you for tuning in to the happy hour.
Anyone still left alive after surviving this?
Yeah.
After the first minute of listening to this podcast, listeners start dying off.
Yeah. They just killed themselves. Anyway, sorry if that was super depressing, but I just wanted to, tell people what would actually happen in that event. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Anyway, do you want to talk about something about Serial?
See, I mean, you're going to have to edit some of that down, man.
Yeah, it's brutal. I didn't even get to the bit. No, you know what? I won't even. And the cats. There's a bit with cats, but it's fine.
But do you know what? It's a really. Somebody with really, really thick glasses that wears like a ghoul indoors wrote that article.
They did.
Well,
yeah,
sweating slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, to break it from the second, like up to, I think it goes right up to like 2,500 years. And I think 2,500 years were basically the Earth's just back to its natural kind of state. It's everything that we created is gone, like all the buildings have gone and stuff like that. They've all just like crumpled and fell down.
There will be some evidence though, in the same way that the pyramids survived.
Yeah, pyramids survive. The Great Wall of China. There'll be some signs. I think the legs of the Eiffel Tower as well. So some things kind of stick about, but the rest is the Earth just reclaims everything.
Just like was it Cambodia? They found it basically just covered up in the jungle. This is just an extraordinary civilization, just reclaimed by the jungle, and they just cleared it all away. And the same with like Central America as well.
They
find these extraordinary buildings and cities that have been reclaimed by jungle. Extraordinary, extraordinary. How very exciting!
Right, so let's get back to Scotland.
Yeah, that's right. So you're listening to Weirder Hings Podcast, still amazingly after that horrifically grim post-apocalyptic. Right, so but myths and legends. Let's get back to the cheerier stuff, okay? So, what do you want to talk about myths and legends, Michael? What's your angle on it? Do you like a wee bit of a myth? Do you like a legend?
I enjoy a myth. Enjoy a legend. Not John Legend though. I'm not a big fan of him. No, I enjoy a wee myth and legend. I always quite liked the Native American myth and legends.
Oh yeah.
But this is a Scottish podcast. So I recently I've been working on a wee project where I've been having to look at the myths and legends of Scotland quite a lot, and you find all these interesting tales of yore.
Yes. Well,
you've got your things happening. So yeah, let's delve into some of them.
Let's dive in.
Let's impart some knowledge on our listeners.
So first of all, cheery stuff now. Right, so myths and legends. Well, first of all, a wee name check. This is something that we've intended to do in the past, but we've not really done it before, which is cite our sources. Yay! I think the actual research done by actual researchers needs to be name checked. A lot of people bang on and on and on about this happened. But the original authors, writers, scientists, researchers, investigators, they deserve a name check. So first of all, I'd like to name check, and certainly in this subject, a folklorist who was and still is quite a big influence on me, Paul T. Barber. Paul T. Barber wrote a book, and if you Google Paul Barber, he's actually an actor. So it's not that one.
All right. Okay.
It's an American folklorist called Paul T. Barber, who wrote a book, this brilliant book about the folklore of the vampire. And it's a cracking book. It's really good fun. It's really interesting, and you get some lovely vampire myths. And what he does is he actually starts off with the somewhat daring hypothesis that there's actually some factual truth within myths and legends. And the idea is that people may not understand the world in the same way that we do. They may not have the same knowledge as we do, but their perceptual skills, their ability to describe what they're seeing, is actually something we should take seriously. So when people talk about, so when we read stories of people seeing things and experiencing things in the past, we should take that seriously, but try and unpack, try and strip back their interpretation of what they've experienced and focus on what might be the core details of that experience. And for example, just using the vampire myth as a status, he actually goes back and finds these extraordinary handwritten accounts of vampire outbreaks, basically in the sort of easternmost reaches of the sort of German Empire or Austro-Hungarian Empire. Basically, there's a reason why suddenly these accounts started to happen, and it's because parts of sort of former Yugoslavia, sort of the Balkans, Serbia, etc., they come under sort of imperial control, and then suddenly you have these imperial sort of police inspectors or investigators having to suddenly make police investigations, write up court reports as to what they're witnessing. And they're witnessing people saying, oh, my husband, he died, but he came back and visited me. So we, dug up the corpse, and the corpse was bloated with blood around their lips. And oh my God, goodness, that was, he was obviously a vampire, etc. So he said, well, if you go back and read these accounts, they exist and people write about them as if they are, this is something real that's happening. But he says, well, actually, you can pretty much put everything down to a combination of perfectly explicable characteristics. The biggest one is just a complete ignorance about post-mortem decay.
Yeah.
Is
decomposition.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, most people don't know that. well, this is another thing that's quite amusingly to say that a lot of people talk about. Did you know that your hair and your nails still grow after you die?
And they don't.
They don't. They don't. And basically all that happens is your skin shrinks as it dries out, and it just looks as if your hair has grown and your nails have grown longer. Another thing as well is, people talk about, they dig up bodies and they're bloated. Yeah, that's the bloating of gas, blood around the lips. That's them decomposing.
This is much cheerier than my chat earlier about the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But somebody might have a ruddy complexion, and also the limbs are supple. And the thing is, people don't know that rigor mortis comes on, but also goes off again.
Right. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, how do you know, Michael?
I spent a lot of time on corpses.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Of
How
course.
do you know?
Yeah. I read his book.
All right. Okay.
What's your excuse? Right. So anyway, so it was a really, really good book. So, but then he with his wife, who was a linguistic, he wrote another book called When They Severed Earth from Sky, How the Human Mind Shapes Myths. So Elizabeth Whalen Barber and Paul T. Barber wrote this book, and it's an excellent book. It's really good fun.
And it's available on Amazon.
And yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, that's it. And it's really good fun. It's really interesting. And he's basically unpacking how a lot of myths and legends come down to us through the ages, but with them, it's this encoded knowledge or message based on natural phenomena. So what we assume is supernatural and legendary actually has roots in a real experience. And a good example, I think the one completely off the top of my head, is like the Medusa myth. Is what do you know about Medusa? Is she's she's a monster. She's a killer. She looks at you. She turns to stone.
You turn to stone.
Yeah, and she's also got snakes for hair that hiss.
Yeah.
And he said that actually this is a really good sort of metaphor for volcanoes.
Really?
Yeah. It's because volcanoes have these sort of hissing snakes of lava that come down the side of a volcano. They turn everything to stone, and they're perfectly lethal.
Right.
So it's a way of basically encoding the danger of volcanoes.
Right.
So the Medusa.
So she was like the Smoky Bear.
Right.
Yeah. She's warning people the dangers of volcanoes.
That's it. So it's a really. I would recommend that if anyone out there is interested in exploring that thesis and those arguments. I would recommend that. So, keeping that in mind, that thought put forward, that you can look at, you can examine these ancient myths and think, well, what's the kernel of truth? What's the real thing that's going on in there? I thought I'd look at some Scottish myths and legends. However, in saying that, I'm going to start off with one that it doesn't really seem to encode anything other than beware the dangers of women, of mothers and daughters. But remember,
International Women's Day.
Well, that's just a coincidence.
At the time of recording.
That's just a coincidence. Yeah. So what we have here is we did one about witches and witchcraft, didn't we?
We did.
Okay.
And we did one on Sonny Bean as well, which I remember rightly you weren't entirely on board with.
No. But the thing is
it came from somewhere.
Yeah, and this is the thing as though it's the most magnificent slur you can say against somebody is a cannibal. Whether or not you have actual proof of it or not is another thing. But people would have eaten people at some point during,
Yeah. Why not?
It happens. Anyway, so it's just like this one. So give this a name check. You'll often see this book on the shelves of charity shops or second-hand bookshops. It obviously being in great circulation, and it's beautifully illustrated. It's folklore, myths and legends of Britain, and it's Reader's Digest. Yay, Reader's Digest! So this is obviously about the whole of the British Isles, but I just love this wee story from Tobermory and Mull, and it's a good one because there's lots of myths. And this is the thing about myths and legends is there can be a kernel of truth. There can be something like the biggest sort of myth or legend, or it's not really a myth, more a legend. But 16.
Wait, what's the story in Tobermory?
What's the story?
Yeah, I just want to. Sorry.
Yeah.
I couldn't let that pass.
That's fair enough.
So, Ennis, what's the story in Tobermory?
The story is there's the legend of the sunken Spanish galleon that sank in the Bay of Tobermory. Do you know this?
No.
No. Well, the thing is it's certainly. I've only been to Tobermory once, and it was a long time ago.
Where is Tobermory? I think I've been there, but I can't remember. Mull.
The Isle of Mull.
I must have been there at some point.
And if anyone's listening to this and you do indeed have a little window open, then Google image Tobermory.
Yeah.
Apart from Wombles, that's another thing. You will see it's a very, very pretty town, basically. Sort of a bay. It's and all the little houses are different painted different colours. It's very, very pretty. It's a handsome place. And but when I went, there were divers diving in the bay, and it's because they basically, I think it's off the top of my head, is it 1688? I don't know.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, the Spanish Armada, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Spanish Armada is basically Sir Walter Raleigh.
Yeah, don't doubt yourself. It's
Okay, so Walter Raleigh.
You're
Basically,
an expert,
okay, Queen Elizabeth, the English took on the Spanish Armada and won, and they were ably assisted by inclement weather, as the English often are.
Yeah.
Obviously, being weather wizards.
Yeah.
Storm wizards.
In Scotland, bad weather in Scotland. Doesn't sound right.
It's surprising, but anyway, the Spanish Armada were basically split in a storm, and some of them went up. Some of them went up one way, and others went up the other way. And
one took the high road, and others took the low road.
They did, and there were lots of Spanish ships wrecked around the coast of the British Isles and Ireland, including this is the do you know the thing about the Black Irish?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So lots of handsoms were the Spanish gentlemen, sailors, dripping with chorizos and Iberian ham.
Yes.
Yes.
Loads of it.
Oh man, just arrived with a platter of tapas delights onto the shore, and the local ladies were like, "Oh,
you're awfully exotic looking.
Yes, would you come in for
a wee pint of Guinness?
Would you come in for a small fuck?" So basically, the idea that there's lots of people in Ireland that are descended from Spanish sailors.
And that's why that is.
And that's why that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was beautifully put.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You really romanticised it.
I did.
I
did, absolutely.
Yeah.
So basically, but anyway, the idea is that this Spanish ship, full of gold, sank basically just outside Tobermory Bay. And there are still divers to this day having a wee swim in a paddle looking for it.
Did they find it?
Not yet.
I mean, it's not the biggest bay in the world, so you think they'd have found it if it was there?
Aye. Well, it's just like, this is is it Canadian or is it American? The Skull Island one, the pirate treasure, and people still look for that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, when are you going to?
Yeah.
It's the fact that. Yeah, the pirate tunneling technology of the days.
Well, it wasn't great.
You're like, look, if they buried it, it wouldn't have been as deep as you're tunneling for it.
Yes,
You know what I mean? There you go.
Tides, etc.
We be building a 1 mile shaft beneath this loamy soil.
Yeah. You're trying to build a channel tunnel.
One-Eye Jack, you have a degree in geology and
engineering
and subterranean engineering. Get to it, me lads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's us slagging off other people's myths, and we're doing one about our own myths. We're very cheeky. Anyway, so yeah, that's one myth and legend. I didn't mean to talk about that for so long, but I'm glad I did, because we got to say a rude word in an Irish accent.
Yeah, it's fine. We're allowed one an episode, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Although I think we dropped a few in the last one, but it's fine.
But you can always put in the slightest of bleeps.
Yeah.
So you hear the and the but they just go like that in between. It's a skill, but it's worth
doing.
It's worth developing.
It's me who has to put the bleep in, so.
Yeah, okay. So So just this wee story, I just quite liked it because it has a really grim ending for International Women's Day, in which we're recording on this day. So one day, a farmer was walking with his small daughter and looking at the ships in the Sound, when she asked him what he would give her if she sank all the vessels they could see. He thought she was joking, so he asked her how she would set about the task. The child bent down and looked at them backwards between her legs. At once, all the ships except one whirled around, then sank. The little girl explained that she could not sink the remaining vessel because it had a piece of rowan wood on board. Asked where she had learnt this terrible skill, she said her mother had taught her. This is the last sentence. The farmer had both of them burnt as witches.
Is that just how that story ends?
It's just how that story ends.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. You can, you know...
Because she really grassed herself up with the rowan wood thing, because, you know, witches don't like rowan wood.
All of that.
Or rowan berries.
But that also, I picked that one because of its tragi-comedy ending, payoff.
So that was supposed to be...
And that was it.
Tobermory.
Yeah, that was basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And but also it contains a wee bit of mythology, legends associated to trees, and of course there's lots of superstitions about trees, and rowan trees warding off witches, etc., etc. So I like that. I thought I'd start off with that one. Yeah, exactly. You know, like you're gonna. It's a bit of a weird bet, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you're out your wee girl and go, you know, out at the park.
Yeah.
Aye.
Never even attempted to try and protect her, just like straight to the, you know, burnt.
Aye. What? Aye. See, did you make all those people's heads explode? You know what I mean?
I would have a wee bit of fun with it first.
Yeah. And then she just went, oh. Didn't think you could do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought the boat sinking was just coincidence.
Taking you to jail. Right. Yeah. So yeah, an odd one.
Enjoyed that.
Another one. That just sounds like delightful nonsense. It's hard to discover the real nugget of truth in that one. But it contains lots of elements, basically about how opposites are associated with the spirit world. See that you can tie it back to this thesis of analogical thinking, because we associate with backwardness and otherness and magic with mirror images and doing things the opposite way you should. So it's the fact that she looks at it upside down behind her, and the idea of where that comes from is apparently, allegedly, if you had no concept of how light worked bouncing off reflective surfaces, then just looking at the surface of water or a mirror in itself is quite a mystical thing. You're looking at a mirror image, which of course is opposite to you. Yeah. So it seems to represent an ephemeral other world, but it's opposite. So this is often why you have this otherworldliness associated with oppositeness, doing things oppositely.
Right. Okay.
There you go.
Like that.
I've written something like, do you know, this is the problem with having terrible writing. Anyway, this one I quite like. So talking about physical, you know, trying to explain the natural and kind of supernatural terms is somewhat physical deformities often had special significance. So that people with humped backs were often associated with fairies. So I'm going to tell you about this, the source of these stories, because if you're interested in myths and legends in Scotland, I can recommend No Book Hire, and it's basically The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries by Walter Evans Vents, and he was born in New Jersey in sort of 1870s in America, and it was basically, it was in Edwardian times. He basically came in. I think he already had some degrees from Stanford University, but he came in and did a degree at Oxford, basically, and essentially his dissertation, his degree, was fairy faith in Celtic countries, and he basically published his degree thesis as this book, and it's an amazing book, and it contains all this transcripts of witness testimony or people's stories of what it says in the title, the fairy faith in Celtic countries. So obviously Scotland gets a good mention.
Yeah, we've got loads of fairies.
We get loads of fairy action, and it's just wonderful. So I'm going to read you these little extracts here. So fairies and the humpback. So yeah, it's this idea that basically the hump is both added or removed by fairies. Is something that is quite common in Celtic countries, Cornwall, Brittany, all over the place. So this is a story from Bunbeckula. There you go. That's in the Western Hebrides. A man who was a humpback once met the fairies dancing and danced with their queen. I like this story. And he sang with them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sure that's an actual song. Yeah. Monday. Anyway, he sang with them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday so well that they took off his hump.
All right, okay.
There you go. And he returned home a straight-bodied man. Then a tailor went past the same place. This is obviously where the fairies are hanging out. And was also admitted by the fairies to their dance. He caught the fairy queen. He caught the fairy queen by the waist. And she resented his familiarity.
He got about
International Women's Day.
Yeah.
#MeToo. But don't worry, fairy queens, they know how to look after themselves. And also, he sang the song, but he added Thursday. He added Thursday to their song and spoilt it. I like the fact
he spoiled it.
Spoilt it. So they're all going,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
and he's going, Thursday. And they're like,
You spoiled it.
So to pay the tailor for his rudeness and ill manners, the dancers took up the hump they had just removed from the first man and clapped it in his back.
That was handy. With a spare hump lying about.
And the conceited fellow went home a humpback. Love it.
Yeah.
Love that story.
Yeah.
Love it. Don't mess with the fairies.
Yeah,
that's a definite theme in fairy folklore in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
They are not
don't get handsy with the fairy queen.
No, grab a fairy queen by the waist. Are you kidding?
Yeah, got what it deserved.
Yeah.
Scumbag. He's a scumbag.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about showing respect, due respect. There's just following on directly from this is a little bit about the libations. So basically, making these offerings or sort of proprietary worship to the fairies. An elder in my church knew a woman who was accustomed in milking her cows to offer libations to the fairies. The woman was later converted to Christ and gave up the practice, which is amusing, isn't it? Because this is interviews in 1911. So presumably this is somebody, who was at least giving lip service to Christianity. It would be hard to argue that is anyone genuinely pagan. Probably just doing like everyone does, just hedging their bets and continuing folk practices. Mm-hmm. Whilst, I don't think she was an actual never heard of Christianity or anything. Yeah. But anyway, later converted to Christ and gave up the practice. And as a result, though, one of her cows was, and I like this, taken by the fairies.
Oh.
They were like,
oh, here's our milk. Oh, aye. No more milk. We want to take one of your cows, mate.
So, she then revived the practice. Quite wise.
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah. So I
sounds like a classic case of alien cattle mutilation.
Yeah, and this is one thing just to bring about myths and legends. In the past, if there was any sort of nocturnal odd noises in your house, or things were moved about, objects were thrown, the immediate first thought you would have is not as Hollywood or the internet would have you believe, demonic possession.
Also.
There is a portal of malevolent spirits coming into your home. Mm-hmm. Let me cleanse this with a bunch of herbs. No, in Scotland, we would go, aye, that's your brownie, that's your household elf.
Yeah.
Who's on strike.
Yeah.
You're not treating your elf right. What have you been leaving porridge out for them? No? Right. Out with the porridge, sort it out.
Yeah.
So that was the very first thought. And even when I often actually tell that to clients, they've got these things happening, and it just takes the sting of the kind of darkest, most horrific paranormal interpretation of these events. It just takes the edge off all that kind of nonsense, because people always go to the darkest. I mean, all this.
It's the devil right away.
Yeah,
it's the
right
devil,
away.
Yeah, it's like demon sent from hell.
Like he's got time to move your shoes in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that?
Satan himself came in and moved my pictures on the wall. Right, okay. Yeah. It was just your household elf.
Yeah.
You've not been leaving his porridge out from in the morning.
My servant, Malach.
Yeah.
I want you to go through the dimensions of hell. Go up into this council house. And move. Gifnook. And move someone's ornament.
Are you sure? We're pretty busy doing other things. No. Want you? Yeah. And when you're finished doing that, I want you to go to Postle and put in somebody's windies.
That's it. I think that is true, though.
Yeah.
I think the Postle story's true. But yeah, so yeah, just to get people that, it's not all bad. Sometimes it can be, so it's not all bad. So yeah, so there's that. So there's that. There's that thing. Anyway, another thing that I think is interesting is, and it's certainly cases that we get these days, are people who have. And I'm gonna couch my words very, very carefully here, because I don't want people to assume that I'm automatically thinking it, dismissing it as a subjective hallucination. Mm-hmm. But people can often have the experience of being touched.
Yeah.
And often the touching can be sexual in nature.
Does that happen often?
It's more common than you think.
Right, okay.
Okay. So yeah. It's these sort of tactile hallucinations.
I love that you actually pointed at me when you said that as well. It's more common than you think.
It's more common than you think.
Right.
Yeah. So in context of myths and legends, how about this? Lachlan's fairy mistress. My grandmother, Catherine McInnes, used to tell me about a man named Lachlan, whom she knew being in love with a fairy woman. The fairy woman made it a point to see Lachlan every night, and he, being worn out with her, began to fear her.
Right.
Okay, so Lachlan initially at first was quite happy about the situation.
He's suddenly bit off more than he can chew.
Oh, absolutely. Because fairy women are inexhaustible, as we know. Things got so bad at last that he decided to go to America to escape the fairy woman. As soon as the plan was fixed and he was about to emigrate, women who were milking at sunset out in the meadows heard very audibly the fairy woman singing this song. Do you want me to put some music to it?
I'll put something in the background.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What will the brown-haired woman do when Lachlan is on the billows? That's it.
Is that it?
That's it, yeah. Lachlan emigrated to Cape Breton, landing in Nova Scotia, and in his first letter home to his friends, he stated that the same fairy woman was haunting him there in America. So I find that very interesting, because I think that can be, you could interpret that very easily in terms of
Lachlan had a stalker.
Well, yeah.
Or Lachlan.
Well, there's that
bunny boiler fairy.
Yeah, there's that possibility, but also it's this sort of I don't want to dismiss it entirely as sleep paralysis or sort of some kind of tactile hallucination on the cusp of sleep, but it could be some kind of sleep disturbance.
I see where you're going with this,
it could be this something that today somebody would just refer him to a sleep clinic,
right? Yeah,
but we're like, no, that's a fairy. So it is.
Yeah. So if he's waking up in the middle of the night in his own house and he's getting intimate with the fairy woman, right?
Yeah.
Which is a well-known story.
Yep.
But if he's nipping out, I'm just away out to meet my fairy woman, that's different.
Yep.
You know?
So, the last wee bit I'm going to talk about here is it is another name check, and it's to Otta F. Swire. Or to give her full title, it's a good one. Otta Flora MacDonald, Lois Swire.
Otter?
Otta, not otter.
Alright, so she never turned into an otter?
No, she was already an otter.
Alright, okay.
So yeah, she lived in Skye basically, and she wrote a lot about the folklore and myths of the Highlands and the inner and outer Hebrides, and there's this most amusing story. She died actually. I mean, she was born towards the end of the Victorian era, and she died in 1973, just when I was a wee toddler. So, so there's this story, and just certain. The other thing about myths and legends, though, is sometimes the sort of supernatural history and associations with places are in the names, because she's talking about visiting the Black Isle, which confusingly isn't actually
on Skye.
It's not on Skye, but it's not in. It's not an island.
Yeah,
it's a peninsula above Inverness. Yeah, and I've got a friend who.
No, you don't.
Oh no, I know. I'm sorry, I made it up. But yeah, I've got a friend that actually comes from a wee village on. From that part of the country, and it's Strathbogie?
Strathbogie?
Bogie or Bogle or something?
Oh, we've had the Bogie-Bogle conversation before.
Yeah, it's got Bogle in the title.
Right, okay.
Or Bogie or something, let's think.
Strathbogle sounds right.
I found it, it's something like that. Anyway, we're getting a wee digression there. Let's ignore that nonsense. Anyway, this is her writing about somebody she personally knew, and this is somewhat interesting here. Okay. It's a wee bit X-Filesy.
Oh.
Because it takes something that we assume is a belief that would have died out quite a long time ago, but this is obviously somebody writing about something that happened in the last century, mid-century probably, I don't know, 1950s, 1960s, could have been something like that, okay. Anyway, one very nice but very quiet table maid, I like that, not just a maid, but a table maid, my mother had from this district some 50 years ago. Oh, okay, right, so 50, so let's just say it could be the turn of the Victorian age. Proved to be a changeling.
Oh, a changeling.
A changeling. We, of course, knew nothing of this until one day a letter carrying bad news for her arrived. Her mother was seriously ill. My mother suggested she should go home at once and was hurrying to look up rail connections when the sobbing girl intervened. Mother's very ill. Mother's very ill. I can't go home. I mustn't go home. You see, I wouldn't be a good person to have in the house if she died. You see, I am a changeling. So there you go. So this is Otta talking about somebody that's confessing
to being a
changeling. She was obviously serious and very unhappy. My mother could only ask with equal seriousness and much sympathy how she knew she was a changeling, and what harm it could do to her mother if she were one. About the latter, she was not very clear. A changeling in the house of death would endanger the soul of the dying. Why, she did not know. She supposed the fairies who had sent the changeling might make her steal the soul for them as it left the body. Or perhaps it was a sin to befriend a changeling, as her mother had always befriended her, and she would rather die than risk harming her mother. As to how she knew she was a changeling, that was simple. As a baby, she said, she was like the others. She was one of 11 brothers and sisters, fat and fair. Then she told us her hair come in Then she told us her hair came in black, and she got thin and cried, especially at night. One night, when she was nearly a year old and crying fit to raise the roof, her father, who's a bit hot-tempered, like sometimes, this is one of those stories you go, oh right, okay, this is how it is, picked her up and flung her to the foot of the bed, where she hit her head on the iron bedpost and lay very still.
Please tell me there's more to this.
Well, this is obviously
right. Okay.
She's telling about what happened to her when she was a baby. All night she lay still, and her father and mother thought she was dead and were frightened. Right, this is before the social work, so you know.
Right. Okay.
But in the morning, this is her saying. But in the morning, I wasn't dead.
She woke up alive.
I wasn't dead at all anymore, and I never cried again either. So then they knew I must be a changeling. And when I grew up dark and all of them so fair, then we all knew it. It is lonely being a changeling. I can't ever marry. I'll bring the curse on my husband's home. And I can't ever go to any of my people when they need me. I can't even go to church. It's a lonely thing to be a changeling. And then the next paragraph here, written by Audessoir, right? Changelings are very rare now in the Highlands.
Oh, okay.
Margaret may have been the last. So there you go. So I just love that. This sort of matter of fact that this woman is confessing to be a changeling. Now, there's loads of, this person could have felt different, I mean, the fact that she would just had dark hair out of everyone had fair. I mean, yeah. No one's got the notion of regressive genes. You know, especially if especially if you have a mixed race heritage,
right.
Sometimes that down the years
skips a generation.
If your family's mostly black, suddenly somebody can pop up really quick, or vice versa, and people go, "Whoa,
what happened here?"
Yeah, what happened here? But no, it's just the way. It's the magic of the genes. It's the roll of the dice. But it's the fact that she interpreted it in that, and if she felt a wee bit different, and maybe she could have even been brain damaged.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Possibly. Yeah.
A wee bit kind of, and then like, well, you're a changeling.
Yeah, that's the explanation for like abusing their children.
Yeah, exactly. But see, I often thought that the idea about changelings is this slow discovery that the kid is a changeling, and then they often end up burning it. Oh. I often think there's a sinister possibility that that's what the Highlanders did to disabled kids in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You're not going to believe this, but we're all out of time.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Actually, 5 minutes over.
Okay, so we started off with the end of the world and cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Eating each other. And we've ended up with Highlanders burning disabled children and blaming it on changelings.
Yeah. So it got really light at the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, if you've managed to make it through this rather depressing episode,
well, do you know what? This is a Scottish podcast.
Yeah.
So toughen up.
It's going to be depressing.
Toughen up and deal with it.
There's a lot to be depressed about.
What's wrong with you?
Hey, so
this is not a nation of hope.
Yeah.
Or cheeriness.
Yeah.
This is grim.
Yeah.
This is reality.
You're the one that decided to tune into this.
Even our fairies are dark bastards.
Yeah. Anyway,
where's my milk? I'm going to kill your cow.
So if you decide to come back next week, thanks. Good. If you don't, we don't blame you.
Honestly. I tried to get Michael to stop talking about the dead dogs, but he didn't. He just kept doing it.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week with I think it's the Bible John.
No way! Bible John! What?
Yeah, just to lighten things up, I thought, get away from...
This is weirder Hings, not grim Hings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the way the cards fell, I'm afraid. It'll be a good one. Will it? Yeah, we get to go out again.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Anyway, so we'll
that's
see
basically about a famous unsolved serial killer case in Scotland.
Yeah, so if you dogs hunting in packs, murdering people or Innis, Burning disabled children isn't your thing, then we've got serial killers for you next week.
Okay. And quick name check. Paul Barber, Evan Vance, and Otta Swire. Look them up.
Yeah. So thanks, and we will see you all. We won't see you. We'll speak to you all next week.
Bye.
Cheery bye.